Good morning, Year 5. Today in Science, you're going to be looking at your notes that you made about David Attenborough to write a non-chronological report and information text about him. So what we're going to do now is look at an example from another naturalist and see if we can have a go at writing a bit about David. So I've got an information text here about another naturalist called Jane Goodall, and she is famous for her study of chimpanzees. She spent 60 years watching them and seeing how they behave in the wild. So let's have a read about her then. So this person has started their report off with a fact file at the beginning. That's really clear, really helpful for the reader, so you might want to consider doing that. So we've got date of birth here, place of birth, mother, and then her mother's profession, and we've got her father's name and his profession. And most of you have written about David Attenborough's parents and their profession, so you could use that in your writing. Jane Goodall is an expert on chimpanzees. For 55 years, she has been studying our closest relatives, finding out how they behave and act in the wild. As well as learning about chimpanzees, Jane spends a lot of her time on animal welfare and conservation projects. So animal welfare is thinking about how we can make animals feel safe and make sure that they're looked after. She believes that animals have rights too. In April 2002, Jane's efforts to help animals around the world earned her the position of Messenger of Peace for the United Nations. Early years. When she was young, Jane's father gave her a stuffed chimpanzee instead of a teddy bear. She named it Jubilee, and Jane says this is what first inspired her to work with animals. Years later, after a lifetime of working with chimpanzees, Jane still has Jubilee. Africa. In 1957, Jane travelled to Kenya in Africa to work on a friend's farm. She met Louis Leakey, a scientist who studied chimpanzees and other apes. Jane agreed to work for Louis and began learning all about the animals. There is a lot more to this report, and I'll attach it to the assignments if you want to read the whole thing. But let's have a look now how it's structured and how we can use that to help us. So we're starting off with a heading. So yours is going to be David Attenborough, or you can maybe do Facts on David Attenborough, or The Wonderful Sir David Attenborough, or something like that. And then the author has also used here subheadings, so we know what each paragraph is going to be about. So remember, if someone comes along and reads your information text about David Attenborough, they might only want to know about his work with animals. They might not care about where he grew up, in which case they would skip this paragraph and go on to another paragraph. So that helps the reader. So here at the top, like I said when I was talking, there's a fact file with quick information that we can see about Jane. And this first paragraph here that hasn't got a subheading is just an introductory paragraph with the main points about her. And that's what we're going to have a go at writing today. Okay, so when you're doing your introduction paragraph, and we're going to have a go at writing one now, just really focus on the key points that you want the reader to know about David, because you can elaborate more later. So I've put here some ideas. I've put that he's a TV presenter. I think that's important to know. He's a naturalist, so he knows a lot about animals and he shares his knowledge with people. He's a conservationist, so he's really passionate about saving the planet. Thinking back to what you did in year 4 about all that work you did with plastic, he's big on anti-plastic stuff. I've put here he's learned a lot of TV programmes for the BBC. That's the company he works for mainly. And I've put that he's a national treasure, i.e. everybody loves him. So I'm going to start writing some of these ideas into a paragraph. I'm going to start with his name. So, Sir David Attenborough is a how could I describe him? We could say that he's British. We could say he's a much loved British. Yeah, let's say that. Hang on. Because he is. Sir David Attenborough is a much loved, British. Now I'm using a comma in between because it's 2 adjectives. Sir David Attenborough is a much loved British TV presenter. I can just sort of lift these off now. TV presenter, comma, naturalist. So that's that comma I've used here, this one, it's commas in a list. So I'm going to list this, this and this. So I don't need a comma before and. TV presenter, comma, naturalist and conservationist. Full stop. Right, let's just check that sentence then, see if we're happy with this. Sir David Attenborough is a much-loved British TV presenter, naturalist and conservationist. Yep, good, sounds professional. Let's carry on then. So my next point is that he's made a lot of TV programmes for the BBC. I'm not sure about the word made, actually. I mean, I originally wrote made. I suppose presented would be a more appropriate word choice because we've said here that he's a TV presenter. So let's write that down. And of course, it would be present perfect tense because he's still making those programmes as far as we know. He's not dead yet. So he has presented, I think maybe we need to tell the reader what sort of programmes. He's presented many programmes. So what are his programmes about? They're about wildlife, they're about nature. So let's tell the reader that. He's presented many programmes on wildlife and nature for the BBC. And then what's our last point? A national treasure. And I'll just finish off by saying, and he is considered to be, sounds a little bit more considered to be instead of, oh, other people say, sounds a bit more formal. And he is considered to be I might put in quotation marks because what some people have said, and then that's showing that I can use my inverted commas. National treasure. And he is considered to be a national treasure by many people. Oops. By many people. Squeeze that in there. Okay, let's read what we've written so far then. So, Sir David Attenborough is a much-loved British TV presenter, naturalist and conservationist. He's presented many programmes on wildlife and nature for the BBC, and he is considered to be a national treasure by many people. Lovely. Okay, so your task today and over half term, I'll probably give you a little bit longer over half term as well, so please don't submit your work today, is to write an information text about David Attenborough. I'd like you to use headings and subheadings to focus your writing, and I'm just going to give you now a few ideas of what subheadings you could use about David. We've done the introduction together, and now you need to write the rest of it using your information that you found last week and using subheadings that you think would be appropriate for the information to go into. For example, early life, so you can talk about the fact that his dad was a professor at University of Leicester and that's where he grew up and he started liking animals from a young age. Some of you told me in your notes that he'd won awards for presenting TV, so you can talk about, maybe do a paragraph about his achievements. David talks loads and loads about how bad plastic is and about conservation, keeping the planet safe, so you can maybe do a paragraph on what he's done for conservation work. I know, for example, that he doesn't eat meat because it's bad for the planet, so maybe you could talk about that. And then, of course, his career in filming, so you can talk about the fact that he's worked for the BBC for so long. You could talk about the fact that he's presented like Blue Planet, Planet Ice, lots and lots of different TV programmes. You can maybe talk about the fact that he's done a podcast for the BBC Sounds, anything like that. The most important thing is to remember, though, please don't rush. You've got plenty of time. Some of the work that you're submitting to me online isn't as good as what you would do in your English books at school, which, I mean, is fine because I'm not here to help you, but do take your time. No rushing, please. You have got ages to do this. Okay, so that's all from me. Please give me a message if you need any help with any more subheadings. If you want to start with a little facts box like the one that Jane did, that's completely fine. Just remember your headings and subheadings. And yeah, message me if you need to. I hope you have a wonderful day, and it's half term now, so I won't be putting on any work, and I'm going to film some more Boy in the Tower to put on there, so I'll be putting those on. And after half term, as you know, some children are coming back to school. I'm not really sure what's happening yet, but I'm 90% sure that I can carry on putting some lessons on for you. They just might not be as often because I'll be in school working with the year 6 or the year 1 or the reception children. So okay, have a wonderful half term, and I'll hopefully see you soon and speak to you soon. Bye.